and welcome to the Happy Me Project podcast, the space where self-development doesn't have to be fancy. And we take the bullshit out of positive mindset. My name is Holly Matthews. I'm a former TV actress, I'm a self-development coach, and I am the founder of the Happy Me Project. Today on the show, we are talking about how we can learn to lean in to our weird, how we can learn to work with our own minds and not against it. So grab a cup of tea, pull up a chair, and let's begin. So when I say leaning into your weird, what do I mean? So we all have different brains. We are all very different people. And when I'm talking about self-development, and certainly in the Happy Me Project membership, we talk about this a lot. I'm always talking about being the investigator of your own mind. Nobody knows you better than you. I always am very hesitant to say life coach when it comes to the work that I do, because I think it conjures up the image of somebody essentially being the puppet master or your mum. I'm not going to be your mom, okay? I've got 2 kids of my own and they're hard bloody working off, right? So you have to get to know yourself. That's the point in my mind of self-development. Get to know yourself enough so that you can then work with yourself. We have so much access to information in the world now that we sometimes see this idealized idea of if we do X, Y, and Z, we will feel happy. If we live in this particular way, that will be the best way to do this. In my space as a business owner, I've spent many years learning about business and how to run a business and all of the nuanced bits that go into that. And there have been many times when I've really found the way that is taught to most people. And in my instance, it is that I am not neurotypical, I'm neurodiverse, in which case some of the neurotypical advice doesn't necessarily work for my brain. That's okay. And there'll be some of you that aren't neurodiverse that equally it doesn't work for your brain either, okay? But knowing that about myself now, I have been able to find better routes for my type of brain. Now this works across the board for all of us. Your brain is uniquely yours. The way that you feel about certain things is unique to you. So we, of course, can take inspiration from other people and we can look at, oh, that person has found that this works. I will experiment and see if this might be something that works for me. We can take inspiration, but ultimately the decisions that we make and the way that we do things has to work for us. So that is what this episode is about. And I want us to start considering what works for you. I'm going to share with you some things that have worked for me. They will likely sound very peculiar if you are not my brain, which you are not. If you have a brain that works completely the opposite, you are probably going to think, what in the blue hell are you on about? But in the last year particularly, I've always been comfortable leaning into my weird, mostly, apart from being a teenager when you're just awkward at everything and all you want to be is the same as everybody else. You just want to fit in. Now, some of us take that feeling quite strongly into adulthood as well, and no judgment if you're still very much in that space. I get it, it's human nature, okay? But as an actor, I had to leave that embarrassment fitting in the crowd thing. I had to leave that at the door a long time ago. So that has probably advanced me a little bit in that respect. I know that's not the case for many of you that watch me and follow me and are part of my membership. So I get it. But I have gone a little deeper in the last year, maybe even during COVID times. It's probably longer than that. But I've really started to experiment. And I say experiment because some things that I've done have been like, yeah, that doesn't work either. Experiment with ideas that might work better with my brain and my emotions, right? Because our emotions up and down and, they come and go and we feel good. Some days we don't, the others. Working with what is going on with me. So first and foremost, that starts with us practicing a level of mindfulness, being conscious enough to go, how are you feeling today, babe? You all right? Not really. Feel a bit stressed out today. All right, what should we do about that? I mean, you don't have to have that conversation with yourself, but you can if you want. No judgment, all right? We're leaning into our weird in this episode. So all all bets are off. We can do what we want, okay? But I want you to get into the space of experimenting in your own world as well. So first and foremost, check in with yourself and start to look at what areas in your life do you find challenging? Because there'll be some probably very mundane, everyday stuff that you think, I don't seem to be able to get my head around that. Or that is always an issue for me. How can I work with my brain to find a solution that gets me the outcome that I want? And that's what I've been doing certainly over the last year, probably before that, but I've really been experimenting. So I'm going to share some of them with you. So I shared this with my book publisher and she was like, no, I don't need to do that. That's pretty weird. So I was saying that sometimes I love reading, right? I love reading. I love books. Like, I just love it. I love a library, love going into a bookshop, just the best, right? And I like physical copies, nothing against Kindles. I do listen to audiobooks, but I just like to have, I'm just leaning over. I'm going to create havoc here. Is it going to fall? I just like having physical books, right? This is a worry book this is a kid's one. This is really good actually, for adults as well. But I like having a physical book. Now, what can happen is when I'm reading, I can often find my focus really lax. And I know a lot of you will experience this regardless of, me having ADHD. A lot of us have lack of focus because we're so used to just our phones, right? We're used to scrolling, we're used to quick bits of information. So in order for me to work with myself, I have implemented a few things. One of them, the first thing is when I'm reading and I'm in the house, for example, I keep going to grab the books. I'm not going to do it. I might take a few books. I have like 3 books in front of me. Start reading the book that I want to read first. The minute that I can feel myself getting distracted, or what happens for me is I just sort of glaze over and I recognize that I might be looking at the words, but I'm not really processing anything that I'm reading, right? So when I can feel that started to happen on that book, I put that book down, I pick up the next book. And I guess this is the book version of channel flicking, right? I guess that's what's happening there. So I just switch to the next book that I might also like to read. And then I read a bit of that. If I find that my focus is gone now, hasn't it? My words aren't catching up with me here. If I find my focus is gone, I move on to the next one. So that's one book-related weirdness. What I've also found is that I read better if I'm moving. Okay, bear with me here, guys. Work with me, because I know that people are like, what do you mean when I tell this to them? I've shared this knowledge with people. So I've now decided that there is a dead time when I walk on the school run from my house to the school. It's not a very far walk, maybe 10 minutes max, right? But I want to read. I want to get through books. So I now have school run books. So I read as I walk. I know this is not safe for everyone to do, but I have the skills to do this. I can walk and read. So I take my book on the school run and I read a few pages. I probably, I might get 5 pages easy done on that walk. There's no chance I'm getting that done just sat still. So I do that. I have walking book reading. If I'm not on the school run and I want to try and read something, so I had to read something for work the other day and it was hard to do it. So I took it and I had it on my iPad this time because I didn't have a physical copy, and I just paced and that worked for me. I also find, and this might be the weirdest one, again, it's all come from experimenting myself and just saying, would this focus my mind if I did this, and not having judgment on myself because I know it's weird. So I read my book. This is if I'm in bed, right? And I think, right, I want to read my book. I would like to do it. Sometimes when I do that, I just can't focus. So I open my book and I thought to myself, well, it works if I'm in movement when I'm walking on a school run. Would it make sense, or would it work if I just moved an arm, or I had, like a squishy toy or something like that, the fidget toys that people have. My kids have a bazillion's not even a word, doesn't matter. They've just got loads of them, right? So something like that. So either if I have one to hand, I might have one of those fidget toys and I can read. If my hand is going, it expels the energy in some way for me. But I was also just doing this. If I'm particularly pent up with like a whirring brain, my focus comes from me moving, or moving my feet, or clenching my bum cheeks, which is a nice image for everybody now. I'm going to close the book now in shame. But doing something that just requires movement in my body, it's almost like the energy needs to get out. Now, I know that there will be some of you that will be like, oh my God, that's genius. And there'll be some of you like, what? That is insane. And do you know what? It doesn't matter, and you're probably both right, and it really doesn't matter because it seems to work and it gets the outcome that I want, which is to read a book, to take in the information. Other things that I've really realized about my brain is that I'm very much working now or never. So if I have the thought, I need to do the thing now, or it doesn't happen. Now, obviously that's not always, you're not always able to do the thing now, the job or the activity that you need to do. But what I do have the ability to do is put it straight into my phone, and I use an app called Todoist, which is really good. And I put it, so when I have the thought, oh, I need to email, or I need to do the thing, what I would have done in the past is went, I'll do that. And then it would never have happened, right? So now, if I can't do it in that instance, I take it, I put the note in my phone, which is a widget on my screen, and it will tell me, and I put in when I want to do it. So I'll do it this evening, pop it in my phone. So it's now or never. If I work on that system of now or never, that seems to work for me. Another thing that I do, I've got my little notes down in front of me for those that are watching on YouTube. Another thing that I think works for me is working with, so this is a great example, working with favorite things I've written down. But what I mean by that is, right, water being an example. I want to drink more water, right? Now, drinking water is boring, okay? I'm sorry, you're not selling it to me. I mean, I know it's going to give me a glowing complexion. I won't be all dry and flaky. My brain will function better. My body will be hydrated. My mental health will improve. I know all of those things, but in that moment, when I've got to go to the tap, put water in, I mean, I'm thankful. I genuinely am always grateful when I get a glass of water, and I think, God, we're so lucky. I can just pour water out of the tap. That's incredible. I mean that sincerely. I really do think that. But it's boring, right? It's a boring activity. So the only way for me to work with my brain is, how can we make it a nice experience? So I really love the tumbler. Now, those that are listening on the podcast cannot see this tumbler, but if you go on to pretty much all of my live streams at the moment, actually, this is not strictly true because the last week I've been really lax. I left this tumbler upstairs and it created such a fuss. There was no water in my body after that. But anyway, you can check it out. If you're on the podcast, you can check it out on Instagram or whatever. And so my tumbler, my white tumbler, I like the feeling of the tumbler. I like its little straw. I like to drink my water out of it. And it's quite large, so I know I'm getting the water. And I do like the idea that I can think, right, I've had 2 of them today, then that's great. That's ticked, job done. The water in my body, hydrated. There's a nice experience in it. So working with that, how can you make it a nice experience? I don't know what your stuff is, but trying to think, how can I make this better? When we try and force ourselves into, like, some people might love a cold glass of water in a glass with ice, right? And that might make you think, oh, that's nice. Like, I love that. Not for me. I don't want my teeth clashing on the glass. It's too cold on my teeth and my mouth. Don't know why, right? It doesn't matter why. It's irrelevant. That's how I feel about it. So if I were to try and force myself, go and get yourself a glass of water, babe, I would be like, no, I would do everything but get that glass of water. But my little tumbler, like the experience, like the feeling of it, it's not cold when you touch it, it's soft, love it. For those listening on the podcast, just had a little drink of that water there. It was lovely, enjoyed it, great, right? So think about your world and how can you make it a fun experience? Do you need to put a little fancy fun umbrella in your water to make you feel smiley and lovely? Do you need to give yourself a sticker on a wall chart to make you do the thing? Make things fun and exciting, and you're much more likely to enjoy the experience and actually do the stuff that you want to do. I don't know what that looks like to you, but these are the things that I've just embraced. I mean, these are a small, tiny list of all of the stuff that I do now, but I'm just working on how can I create better habits for myself and lack the judgment, not worry about how weird it looks to anybody else. Look, I'm 37. I have not got time in my world to be worrying about whether somebody on the school run is thinking, she's reading a book on the school run there. That's a bit weird. I haven't got time for that. There's not space in my world. There is all sorts going on in this planet that I don't need to worry about whether June, who's looking out of our window, thinks that's odd. I don't have time for you, June. I don't, babe. Honestly, I don't have time. I'm just trying to read my book. That's all I'm trying to do. And I know that some of you, beautiful souls, are still stuck in that mindset of what will people think. People will think what they want about you, whether you do the thing or you don't. And if you do need to work on that stuff next, or I don't know when it will be when I put this out, but in April, we're going to be working on self-esteem in the membership, in the Happy Me Project membership. I'll put links below to that. That's going to be something we go back to and revisit many times. But I want you to care a lot less. We're never going to not care what people think. That's just a nonsense, like too big a jump. But I want you to care less. I want you to do your weird stuff and be okay with it. If you can only drink out of one cup in your house and that's your favourite cup, but it gets you drinking, then amazing. If you can only eat one healthy meal every day, then it works for you. So what? Like, we have to stop worrying that we don't fit into a certain box. It's okay. Now, you might be listening to all of this and none of it might make sense. And that really, really is the point in a way, because you have to trust yourself. You have to start building that trust back up for yourself and just play, experiment, see what might work. Do something really like bizarre and just see if it works. You know, for me, one of the things that I find is that when I'm full of energy, and I'm in my office right now, today I'm actually all right. I went on a walk this morning, which probably helped to expel some of that kind of whirring feeling I can get of being like wound up like a spring. I went on a walk with my members this morning. We did a walk and talk in the membership, which is something I'm bringing in, again, to encourage our good habits. So I went on the walk, came back in here, and I actually feel all right working from my office today. There are some days when there's not a chance I could sit on this chair, and I will go into my front room instead, and I will work on the floor, and I will take off my shoes, and I will essentially just roll about, not roll literally, well, actually kind of literally, but imagine just not sitting still, like a child. Like your 4-year-old, that's me, and I will probably have about 10 different notepads and pens and highlighters, and I'll be voice noting and I'll be doing stuff, and that's okay. On those days, that works for me, but I only know this by experimenting and not judging myself for needing to do those things in the way that I do. And in fact, actually, it's become really fun to experiment and go, do you know what, that's an interesting discovery, that if I wave my arm around when I read a book, sometimes that allows me to see the words. Who knew? Who knew? And I wouldn't have known had I not experimented. So I'm going to ask you guys to experiment in your own worlds over the next couple of weeks and just see what you come up with. And I'd love it if you got the chance to share some of those things with me, some of those findings, because I'm always interested in seeing if any of your stuff could inspire me as well. I'm sending you loads of love. Life is a blooming challenge. It is a challenge, okay? But you, my friends, are absolutely up for that challenge. And I'm thank you for being with me on the podcast, on YouTube, wherever else. And if the membership is something that really piques your interest, and I keep talking about it, I'm really passionate about it. I am in there every day pretty much now, unless there is a reason why I can't. Chatting to the members, offering stuff and advice and connecting and sharing and all of that stuff. There's links below to join the membership, and we will welcome you in with open arms. It's an amazing bunch of people, and you would fit in just great. You would, because you're amazing as well. So I will see you all very, very soon, and go lean into your weird, you bunch of weirdos. Peace.